All right, in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to build out 3 different types of thank you pages, and I'm going to show you a couple more really cool features. All right, so the first page I'm going to build out from scratch on my theme. The second I'm going to build out from scratch using the blank Thrive Architect template. And the third I'm going to build out using the bright email confirmation Thrive Architect template. So you're going to get a little something of everything. Now, I'm not going to worry about actual copy, so don't pay any attention to that since none of it's going to make much sense. But I will be using headlines and buttons and other elements that I've saved it as templates, just like I showed you in the last lesson, so that you can see how much quicker that really makes the process. Now, while I'm building out these pages, I want you to be thinking about how you can make these work for your offers. All right, so thank you pages come in all shapes and sizes depending on what action you're thanking a visitor for taking. Right, so meaning a live event thank you page is going to look a little different than a thank you page after someone purchases a course or even opts in for a freebie. So I'm not going to be designing these pages with any one purpose of a thank you page in mind. I'm simply aiming to show you all the possibilities and a variety of approaches. So with all that said, let's get to it. All right, so let's get busy. We're going to start just how we always start. I'm going to add a background section. Now, instead of dragging a headline, like I said, I'm going to use mostly templates in this lesson. So I'm going to drag the template into that background section. Now I've got a ton of templates. So instead of scrolling, I just like to use the search feature. So for this one, I'm going to search my H2 headings, and I can use this right here. Just choose that, and it will load inside the page. All right, now right off the bat, I'm going to come back to this background section. I'm going to give it some padding so we have a little bit more room that we can work with. So I'm going to hit this middle button that'll link it all up so it'll apply the number I enter to the padding on the top, bottom, left, and right. So I'm just going to add 15 just to, again, give it some breathing room. And I like to get in the habit of clicking off this. I'm sure you're undoubtedly going to see me do this in this lesson. But I like to make it a habit to click off this so when I come back later, I don't accidentally apply it to everything. But like I said, I'm sure you'll see me do it anyway. All right, so now I can type the text that I want in here. So I'll put one more thing. Now I can come up here and dial up the size of that. Perfect. Now I'm going to come drag my subheadline in right below that, again using the templates and symbols. Now the last thing I'm going to do is drag in a button, again saved from my templates. All right, and then let's apply a little bit of margin up here to bump this down a bit. Let's say 50. And then I like to do this because I have this bottom, this secondary menu. I just like to wrap up most pages with my submark, right? Just real small at the bottom of the page, especially since there is not a logo or anything at the top. So I'm just going to insert my submark. I'll reduce the size to maybe 100. Perfect. And come down, give that some margin. Let's say 50, and then center that. All right, so super basic thank you page. Let me save that and show you in the browser. And here it is, right? Totally simple, but it works, right? Again, it just depends what your use is. But let's take this same page that we're working with and let's get a little fancy. All right, so first up, let's add a background. You know how much I love me a background. All right, so we'll come down to the background style section and I'll choose one of my patterns. How about that? We haven't used one of those yet. So obviously we need to change the color of all of the headlines and the text elements. So I'll go ahead and do that. Perfect. Now this button, when I dragged it in, did not drag into the container. So I'll go ahead and pull that below the paragraph. Perfect. Now, how about we add a video? Very fancy. Now you can scroll here. Once you start to get a hang of or an idea of all the features, there can be a lot to scroll, so you're going to see me a lot in this lesson. Just type it up here in the search. So I know what the feature's called, just type that out. And let's see, we'll put this below the paragraph and above the button. Now for video, you've got the choice. You can link a YouTube, Vimeo, or Wistia, or you can upload it to your site. Now I wouldn't upload a ton of videos or especially really long lessons, but I have a couple videos, like just again, my thank you page videos that are, maybe 1 or 2 minutes. So they're pretty small files. And I prefer to host them on my site than on YouTube. Again, totally your preference. But I'm going to choose custom and then load one of the videos I have loaded on my site. So once you click choose video, it'll open your media library and it will only pull in your videos. So I'll just go ahead and select one. And then down here, you've got styles, right? So how the actual video is appearing. You can put it in a tablet or a monitor. They have some pretty cool ones. Some frames. Let's see, I'll just choose lifted 4. We'll apply that. And then below this, you've also got a couple more options. So you can autoplay your video. I'm going to leave that plugged in. Let me scroll down. You can hide the controls. So right there are the controls. I'm going to go ahead and hide them. And you can loop the video, which I've never really found a purpose for, but you can absolutely do that. So that is in the advanced features. Now I'm going to come down and I'm going to make this, let's see, I'm going to manually put this at 75%. Make sure it's centered, and then I'll give it a little margin so that button has some breathing room. Let's see, maybe 50. And then I'll select the button and I'll give that, actually I'm going to just apply the padding to the background section, right? So we've already got 15 in there. We're just going to dial the bottom down to maybe another 50. Actually, let's go with more. So another 75. So that already is looking pretty good, right? I'm going to apply a little margin to this, give that some breathing room. Oops, come up here. And maybe apply 50 there. Perfect. Right, so let's say this is a call to action to grab a clarity call. Let's go with that, right? So you they might have opted in for a guide or maybe your live training, and on your thank you page, you want to offer a clarity call or a clarity session or a discovery call. They're called all kinds of things. So let's pretend that that's what we're going to create this with. But again, this will work for anything. This can work for having people join your Facebook group or having them opt into a webinar. Or some other kind of live event, whatever your offer is. So let's go with Clarity Call. And below this section, let's go ahead and add another section. So above the submark and below this background section. So I'll go ahead and drag another background section below this original one. I will come right down, now that I remember, link this up and give this whole background section some universal padding again. I'll go with 15 for right now and then unlink that. And now I'm going to come back to the main menu, and this time I'm going to add my headline. So let's go right into that background section. All right, now I want to show you how to create one of those kind of 3-column icon sections. You probably see them all over. So let me show you. So first I'm going to add the columns feature right below this headline. So I'm going to drag that in from the right side, make sure it's below the heading. And I'm going to select the thirds, right? So I want 3 columns in this section. Perfect. Now in the first column, I'm going to drag a content box. So inside this column, I'm going to drag that. Now within that content box, I'm going to drag the elements that we want in that section. So the first thing is going to be an icon, so I can go ahead and search that out. Drag the icon, make sure it's inside the content box. Now I can select whatever content or whatever icon I want. I'm just going to randomly select that. Wine glass is looking tasty right now. Now over here you've got some options. You can reduce the size. Let's go ahead with 40, and you can change the color. I'm going to leave the color as is, but you can change that. Next, I want a sub-headline, so I'll go ahead and again use one of my templated headlines, add that right below the icon. Again, I'm not going to worry about changing out the copy. And then the last thing I want is a little blurb. So I'll go ahead and pull in the paragraph element from my templates. Perfect. Now I'm going to style this up, get this exactly the way I want it. So I definitely want to apply some top margin over here. So let's see, maybe 10, maybe a little bit more, 15. I'm going to center align this, and I'm really loving that. All right, now what you can do is grab the content box. That's why I created it, so that all of this is in there. I can hit this duplicate. I'm going to hit that twice. And now I can just drag these into the other columns. I don't need to make sure you're in the content box. Drag it into the third one. I don't need to recreate this shit, right? So now I can click these icons. I can come back up to the icon. I can switch that to the next thing I want to use. Select. I can change my headline. I can copy in my blurb and do the same thing right here. Again, select the next icon I want, change the headline, change the blurb. That is freaking awesome. So now I'm going to grab the whole columns area and I'm going to apply some margin there. So there's a little bit more room between the headline and this section. Now look at that. That is looking good. Let's save this and preview it in the browser. All right, bam, here it is. Looking pretty good, right? A couple things I might do is reduce the width of this column area and also maybe reduce the size of the video just a bit. So let's take care of that in Thrive and we'll preview it one more time. All right, so I'll tap this video and come back to the size and maybe say 60% size. Perfect. And then I'll again grab this column area and reduce the width of that just a bit. All right, so we'll go like that and make sure it's center aligned. Maybe even just a little bit more. Now, last thing I always want you to do is go ahead and check the tablet and mobile versions. Make sure everything looks good, right? So in case you need to adjust anything, you can do that here. So I'm going to apply a little margin at the top. Let's come up here, maybe 25. And then I'm going to increase the size on this device just a little bit. There we go. And maybe reduce the size of this. It's looking a little funky. I like that. Now remember, the columns are going to stack as the devices, as the screens get smaller, right? So you have that option to, again, make sure that you're in the entire columns area, right? We're just in the content box. I'm going to click columns. You can come up here and unclick this wrap columns, right? So now it's not going to wrap on the tablet. That looks perfect. And now tackle the mobile. So again, that looks good. I'm going to crank this up to the full 100%. I could adjust this text a little bit. I won't bother doing that. Here, this is going to stack. I love the way it stacks on this, so I'm all good with that. Perfect. I think that looks good to go. So I will go back to the desktop, save it, and preview one last time in the browser. And minus that, yes, it's taking me a little longer to show you because I want you to see every click. This literally would take you about 5 minutes, right? I mean, I love that you can duplicate features. I love that you can use headlines and elements in template form so you're not restyling them and formatting them up. This page could literally take you 5 minutes to create, if not less. All right, so like I said, for the second page, I'm going to build it out from scratch using the basic Thrive Architect template. So let's say that your theme doesn't come with any sort of landing page or sales page template, and you don't want all the bells and whistles of your primary navigation menu and your header showing on your thank you page. Hence why you're using the basic template. But you do want a couple navigation labels, maybe kind of custom things that have context to what you're offering on this particular thank you page. And you also want your logo in that traditional top left-hand corner so that they can get back to your homepage if they want. All right, let me show you how to build that out. So first I'm going to load the basic template onto this page. So choose a landing page template, come over here to blank, and we're going to select the blank page 2. And I think I always call it the basic template. It's the blank template. So forgive when I always call it basic, because I think I've been doing that for a couple years now. All right, here's the blank template, just has this one default heading. I'll go ahead and remove that, and we can start building away. So as always, we're gonna start with the background section. So I'll add that background section. I'm gonna come right down here and apply some padding just so we can see things a little bit more clear. I'll apply 50 this time, actually maybe just 25. All right, and unlink that. Now, here I want you to notice something. First of all, you can collapse this menu so you can get a little bit more of a true preview in the dashboard. So I'll go ahead and remove that. Notice that this background section is not touching the sides. We want full width, right? We love us some full width. So I'm going to add an image so you can really see this, and then I'm going to show you how to get it full width in a single click. So I'm going to open the panel back up, come down to the background section, and add my image, the same image that we've been working with. Now I'm going to come up to the top and I'm going to adjust the height again so we can just kind of see things a little bit easier. And then collapse this menu. So again, you can see that this is not full width. Yuck. All right, here's how you do it. Keep an eye out because it's so super easy. It's so quick you're going to miss it. Right at the top, right here. Once you select that background section, it's as simple as clicking this. Bam, stretch to fit screen width. Let me collapse this again, and looky, look what is full width now. Now, one more wonky thing that you know drives my design eyeballs nuts is this little space at the top. That has nothing to do with padding or margin, okay? We can come to the background section and there's no margin. There is no margin available on the template, all right? So there's not really a way to adjust it that way. What's happening is something in my particular theme is driving that margin. So keep in mind that your theme is gonna have some wonky things that may go on. I want to show you how to quickly fix this again in one single click. What you're gonna do is make sure you're again in the Thrive landing page settings. Come over to this menu and right here, click Remove Theme CSS. Bam, space removed. So this takes any wonky coding that's being driven from your theme off of it, which you don't really need since you're using a Thrive landing page theme. Now I have seen, full disclosure, some wonky things happen with the headings, right? So for instance, let me pull, oops, not collapse this. Let me come back to the main menu and just drag a heading in here really quick. I want to show you what I mean. So for instance, let me increase the size of this. In my theme, for whatever reason, it pulls in my heading 2 in a bold. You can see right here, it's not even selected, right? Even if I click it, there's no way to unbold this. It's just a wonky thing. It doesn't even happen in all templates. But I just want to point out, there are these little idiosyncrasies that happen now that I've removed the CSS, but they usually are very minimal and they usually come in the form of your headings. So the best solution is on your theme, right, without loading any template, create those headlines that you're always using and save them as templates so that you can just plug them in, just like you're going to watch me do 50 times probably in this lesson. Just something to keep in mind. But 99% of the time, I was going to say 9 times out of 10, but 99% of the time, ticking this, let's get back to it, this Thrive Remove Theme CSS is not going to create any problems for you, and it is going to reduce any wonky shit that's going on when you're using a Thrive landing page template, even if it's not for a landing page. That's what they're called, the Thrive landing page templates, all right? So just a couple setup tips right there. So let's get busy building this page. Like I said, I want to show you how to build a quasi navigation menu and have that logo area so it looks a little bit more traditional, but you're not forced to use the menu that comes with your theme. So let's go back to the main menu, and the first thing I'm going to do again is pull in a columns area into this background section. Now I'm going to select a half, right? So I want 2 columns. Now, in this left column, I'm going to put my logo, so it's going to be an image. In this right column, I'm actually going to put another columns feature in there. So I'll drag the image over here to the left side, and I'll add my logo. Now, like I said, I want to drag another columns section into here. So we'll come back to the main menu and drag it in here. This time, I'm going to select 4, right? I want quarters. I want 4 columns in this area. I'm going to have 3 labels and a button. Now in this first column, I'm going to drag one of my templated headlines. Now I can duplicate this again. I'm going to duplicate it twice. And now I can drag this into this column and drag this one into here. Let's change this. I can say maybe courses about, and let's see, what do I want this one to say? How about blog? All right, perfect. Now in this fourth one, I'm going to put a button. And again, that's going to come from my template because I've already saved my style button. Now, making sure I'm on. Now, if I'm in the text, you can see right here I'm in inline text. I want to make sure I'm in the button. So I'm going to select this layer, and then I can come up and style that a little bit. Let's see, I'm going to change the padding because that's what's driving a lot of this extra space. So you see it's got 12 on the top, 12 on the bottom, and 15 on the sides. So I'm going to reduce this maybe to 7, this one to 7, and same thing, maybe 7 everywhere. That looks good. And then I'll go ahead and reduce the size of some of this. So let's say I want to reduce this to, there we go, perfect, 13, and I'll go ahead and do this. And I should have done the size before I duplicated it, just an extra tip. That'll save you a little time. And last one. Perfect. Now, here's another tip. So we have got this right here, and you can see there's no padding or margin, but this is kicking this bad boy down. You can use negative margin, okay? I want you to be very careful about this because things will go wonky as device sizes get smaller, as screen sizes get smaller. So this, if you use a negative margin on any kind of elements on your page, you are definitely going to want to hit up the tablet and mobile down here and make sure that things are formatted. And we'll get to that at the end of this particular template I'll show you. But first, let me show you how you do it. So again, make sure that we have the button layers selected. We're come down to margin. Now right here, it's got 35. So we'll definitely remove that, and that will help, right? That brought that up. So now it's lined with the top of these labels. But I want it centered, right? So I want to move it up ever so slightly. To do that, I'm just going to use a negative in the margins, right? So let's say negative, maybe 5 will do it. A little bit more, maybe 10. Bam, look at that. Now I can style this section up a bit. So you can see that this, I think, has some margin on it. Yep, we've got 20, so I'll take that out. Now we also applied margin to the top of this background section. So I might want to reduce that a little bit. I don't want 25, let's just say 5. Perfect. Now we can come over to this column section right here. Now to get these labels a little bit closer, we can play with a couple things. So we can play with the dragging the actual columns, right? So now that's a little bit closer, perfect, that's a little bit closer. And now on this other one, we can just right align this, right? That already looks amazing and so much better. All right, now the last thing we need to do to this section is just link everything up. So to link an image, if you just click on the image and come over here to image link and paste that in. And as far as your labels go, if you double click that, come up to this top menu, click insert link. Again, you can type in the page that you want to search for. Thrive will pull up a list of everything that matches that search and click whatever you want to link to and insert it. Now notice that this label is underlined, and if you look at this top menu, it is not being controlled there. Remember, I taught you in the time-saving lesson how you can update globally all headings and hyperlinks. So remember, if you come to the Thrive landing page and then select Edit Page Text, if we come down to the hyperlink, we can remove the underline and also hit the hover and make sure that that color is what we want. So we'll go ahead with the yellow, apply that, exit out of that and close, and bam, no underline, and now it is hovering to yellow. All right, now the last thing we need to do to this section is just link everything up. So to link an image, if you just click on the image and come over here to image link and paste that in. And as far as your labels go, if you double click that, come up to this top menu, click insert link. Again, you can type in the page that you want to search for. Thrive will pull up a list of everything that matches that search and click whatever you want to link to and insert it. Now notice that this label is underlined, and if you look at this top menu, it is not being controlled there. Remember, I taught you in the time-saving lesson how you can update globally all headings and hyperlinks. So remember, if you come to the Thrive landing page and then select Edit Page Text, if we come down to the hyperlink, we can remove the underline and also hit the hover and make sure that that color is what we want. So we'll go ahead with the yellow, apply that, exit out of that and close, and bam, no underline, and now it is hovering to yellow. Cool, right? So I'm not going to worry about linking these now that you know how that's done. Let's move on. So I'm going to add a couple sub-headlines, throw those in, and copy and paste some text really quick. All right, perfect. Now I'm going to apply some more padding on the bottom of this background section. So I'll come down here. It's got 25. I'm going to dial that up to 100 just for right now. I might end up changing that. And then I'm going to reduce the margin on this one just a bit. It's at 60. Maybe put that at 20. All right, perfect. All right, I want to show you something really cool. You're going to see this in the third thank you page that I designed, but it's an element that's already part of a template. So I want to show you how to accomplish it. So basically, I want to create an icon that's half on this background section and this image background section and half on this white section. So let me show you how to do this. So the first thing we're going to do is click the icon feature and add an icon in here. And I'm just going to add it right below this paragraph. So I'm going to use the bottom arrow. Let's see, where are you, bottom arrow? Here we go. Right here, select. Now I can do a couple formatting things. So I'm going to change the color of the arrow. Let's say I want to use my marigold. And I'm going to reduce the size a bit. Let's see, 40. Now I'm going to add a background color. Because, yep, you can do that to even icons. So I'm going to use white. And then I'm also going to come to these rounded corners and I'm going to select 50 so that it's a circle. Perfect. And I'm going to come back up to the padding. I'm going to make sure this is linked. And then I'm going to apply just a little bit. I'm not sure how much. 5, I think that looks pretty good. All right, now I'm going to come down to the layout and position section. Now I want to hit this advanced area. So it might be closed when you hit it. I just want to open that section up. Now keep an eye on the icon. I'm going to change the position from auto to absolute. It's going to move. All right, so now it's on the left side of the screen. What we're going to do is choose the absolute location. That's basically what that means. All right, so it's going to have to be updated very specifically for the tablet and mobile. So this is when you're using this kind of element, you are definitely going to need to pay attention to the tablet and mobile formatting. And I'll show you that when we get to the end of this particular thank you page. But first, we're just going to start to move it on the page exactly where we want it. And I want it centered under those headlines, and I want it half on the image section and half on the white section. So we'll start from the left. We'll say, and it's just a guessing game, so we're just going to keep. So 350 wasn't enough. Maybe 500. I think 500 is perfect. I think that's centered right below the headlines. And now I want to bump it down. So let's say a little bit more, about 75. I like that. I love it. All right, and now because I use a white background, I want to differentiate, I want it to pop just a little bit. I'm going to come down to the shadow section and I'm going to add a little section here. I'm going to dial the distance down a little bit. Perfect, and then apply that. Are you loving that? I am. All right, now I love this feature, the grid post feature. I showed you this in the intro video. So if you're just getting started, maybe you don't have a ton of opt-in offers and you're not doing webinars or live events yet, presenting people with blog content on the thank you page is a perfect solution, and Thrive makes it really easy with their post grid feature. So first I'm going to add the background section. I'm going to give that some padding and margin. So let's bump that down since we've got that arrow. And then I'll just apply maybe just 15 pixel. Now notice again that this is not full width, so we'll come back up to the top and I'll make sure the stretch to fit screen width is done. Boom, there we go. And now I will add that grid element. So search post grid, drop that in. And now again, it's going to populate with some default content, which is fine. We're going to customize all that. So I just want the featured image, right? I don't want the headlines, the blurb, or the read more. So I'm going to click Edit Grid Options, and I'm going to untick everything but the featured image. Now I'm okay with these settings. So I like that there's 3 columns. I want it to be a grid. So down here, I want it to pull in posts. Let's change the number to 9 posts. And then I'll come down here and I'll add the category branding. So let's say someone opted in for my quick and dirty guide to branding. This is the thank you page. I'm just going to present them with all my best branding blog posts. That's a great thank you page. I used that for probably the first 6 months that I launched the Branded Solopreneur, and it worked like gangbusters to get me more traffic to my posts. All right, so we'll click done. The last thing I want to do here is adjust the image size so that my particular blog images are coming in perfectly. There we go. I love that a little bit more. Cool. Now the last thing I'm going to do is add my footer credit. So I'm going to add one more background section in this dark gray. Right, and again, make sure that that's ticked, stretch to fit screen width. I will add my background color. And I'll come back, and I've actually already saved my footer credits as a template. So we'll add those. Now notice that the privacy policy that's already linked is matching these labels up here because we globally formatted the links that way. So any link that was on this page is going to be formatted that way. So for instance, if I tried to add a link to this white area, it's not going to appear because we have styled it white on display and marigold on hover, right? So something to keep in mind when you're globally styling links on your landing pages or any other pages that you're using Thrive for, just keep that in mind, okay? It is going to be universally styled. So that's why I wanted to create a dark background for this footer link. All right, this is looking gorgeous. How about we save it and preview it in the browser? Hell yeah, I love this, right? So we've got our label, our nav menu labels linked. We've got this link to the home page, this gorgeous header section. Look at this icon looking all kinds of fly, and all of this hovering so they can click right on this image and go right to that blog post. Now that last thing we want to do is go through the tablet and mobile. So let's tackle the tablet. Like I said, there's a couple idiosyncrasies. So for this menu, as long as you do not have, remember columns will stack, as the screen gets smaller. Right, so we want to select the columns just on this right side and make sure. Now, if we selected this right here, wrap columns, that's what's going to happen. It's going to stack. On tablet, you can usually, depending, it's not an end all be all, but you can usually get away with not wrapping the columns so that things stay nicely. And this looks perfect. You could style up the button, reduce the padding and the font size, and to get that back to one line. You can update any of these headlines. Now, second thing, remember I told you this is an absolute positioned element now. So that position is going to need to change as the device gets smaller. So we're going to click that, come back over to that layout and position menu. Now instead of 500, obviously this is too far to the right. So I'm going to decrease this a little bit. Let's try 350. Bam, that looks perfect. And the height is fine, so we're going to leave 75. Now, on the post grid, this seems to be, for whatever reason, I haven't figured it out, the only element I have found where when adjusted on a tablet or mobile, it will affect the actual image size, I should say. When the image size is adjusted on tablet and mobile, it will adjust it on the desktop as well. And I haven't figured out why this is, but I have figured out a workaround, so I wanted to show you that. But first, let me show you what I mean. So right now we've got 165, which is looking great on desktop, not so much here. So let's adjust this so it does look good here. Right, so maybe a little bit smaller. All right, I think that looks good. So now let's go back to the desktop and I'll show you what I mean. It adjusted it here, right? So we do not like that. So I'm going to change this back to what that was, which is 165. Right, looks good on desktop. Let's go back to tablet. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to adjust the padding on the background section. Okay, so not on the post grid, on the background section. Okay, so we'll make sure that we're in the background section. We'll come down to the padding and we'll just, again, it's all about playing around. So first, let me try 100 on each side, see how that goes. Nope, still not it. Let's bump it up to 200, see if that looks a little bit better. Bam, that looks perfect. All right, I'm digging that. Let's make sure there's nothing wonky with the credit. Okay, that looks great. All right, tablet is dialed in. Let's go to mobile. All right, so on mobile, here's the thing. I like things very clean and very basic when it comes to the mobile device. I am good with things on desktop and tablet, but once they start stacking on this really small phone screens, I'm not down with it. I want to keep it really clean. So what I would do in this case for this navigation is I would actually remove the whole thing from mobile. So I would click over to the whole column section, come down to the responsive section in your menu right here, and I would just say, don't even show that on mobile, okay? You could, of course, format this if you want. I'm just letting you know, and I love that feature that you can just eliminate things completely on a mobile, right? So with the grid, what you're going to do is, while you added a fuck ton of padding to the tablet to make it work, you're actually going to do the very opposite. You're basically going to remove the padding from this. So again, we're going to make sure we're in the background section, and that 200 pixels that we added, we're just going to take that away. Right? We might want to add maybe 5 or 10, just so it's not crushed up against the edge. But there you go. I mean, that looks fantastic. Double check this. I always like to go through one last check just to make sure nothing got wonky. Looking good on tablet. One last sanity check on desktop. Oh, I think this is gorgeous. Let's save it and look for one last final time at this bad boy in the browser. And there you have it. So everything's nicely linked up. I love this post grid. It's got this nice transparency so you know that you're hovering over something clickable. And here's the deal, now that you've created this whole header area, right, with your logo and this custom navigation menu with these headers and this beautiful image and this icon, you can create, or you can save this whole thing as a template again, right, and then use this on any page. It's very important to create continuity in your pages, okay, in your funnel. So the opt-in page and the thank you page and any other pages that they're going to be seeing, including course pages and upsell pages, you name it, you want to create this consistent look, okay? And this is how to do it in Thrive. You create this once and now save it as a template, and you can add it again and again. You can make this a landing page. You can just change this out, maybe change these areas to another template that you created. You've got this, you can save this footer bar, the whole thing, not just the credit, and you are cutting down massive amounts of time. All right, so let's call it thank you page number 2 done. Let's move on to our final thank you page number 3. We're going to be using that bright email confirmation template. So let's get that loaded up and get going. All right, I've got that template all loaded up, and I'm going to cruise through this one a little bit quicker because I think you're really getting the hang of this, and I don't want you to be bored watching the same shit over and over, all right? So I'm going to style this header area just like you've seen me do it a million times. So I'm going to put that dark, striking image. I'm going to swap these headlines and subheadlines out, and here's that element I said that you were going to see. I'm going to change this to match the icon that we used in the last thank you page. All right, there we go. We've got that top section. I'm going to remove some of the margin on this bad boy. Let's see, 25, perfect. All right, now I want to add one more background section between this and the section right here before we tackle this. So I'm going to drag that right under this background section. Now I'm going to give it some margin, so we've got a little room to work with. Let's see. And now in this section, I'm going to drag columns, and I'm going to choose 2 columns. Now in the right column, I'm going to add my image and my name and title. And in the left-hand column, I'm going to add a subheadline and a countdown timer. All right, now I can add that countdown timer, and you've got, oops, helps if I spell. So you've got the countdown evergreen or just the countdown. I'm going to go ahead and use the countdown. Drop that right below the heading. Now you've got some choices. We'll click on this. So you've got 3 different style choices. I'm going to choose this third one. You can change the color of it. And of course, you're going to specify the deadline, so to speak. So I'm just going to randomly select the date, the hour, and the minutes that you want. I'm going to give this some margin on the top. Let's see. Perfect. And now I'm also going to just grab this whole columns area and reduce the width quite a bit. See, we'll go like that. Perfect, and center that up. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. All right, so let's tackle this section. Now, obviously, you can format this up. I'm just going to go ahead and replace these with some formatted template headlines that I already have saved. Now I'm going to leave the icon white, but I'm going to come down here because, again, it does have a background color. So I'm going to change that to my gray. Now, it doesn't have margin or padding. It actually has a border. So if I come over to here, you can see it has an 8-pixel white border. I'm just going to remove that. And again, I'm going to dial up the rounded corners so this is now a circle. Perfect. Now, what you can do is grab this whole section and duplicate it instead of having to go through that rigmarole again. So I'm just going to duplicate this 3 times and come down here and grab these columns and delete them. And now since this one is join our private Facebook lounge, I'm going to go ahead and throw a button right below this section right here. Perfect. Now the last thing that we have is our credit bar. So I'm going to go ahead and change the background color, update that to my gray. Now this has got a columns feature in it. It's got 2 columns you can see right here. So I'm just going to grab the columns layer and remove that whole thing and then drag in the footer credits that I have saved as a template. Look at that. Let's save this and preview it in a browser. All right, here it is. That looks pretty damn good. Now, one thing I like to differentiate this section from this middle section, so I'm going to add a background color just to this section right here. So let's tackle that in Thrive, but otherwise, I think this is looking fly as fuck. All right, so I'm just going to grab this background section, come over to the background color. Where are we? And let's see, I want something really light. That works. Maybe even a little bit lighter. Perfect. Go ahead and apply that. And I'm also going to delete the drop shadow on these icons. I do not want that. It looks like the margin is probably on this one. Yep. So we will delete that. Bam. And now we'll add a little padding. So that's got a little bit of its own breathing room. Oh yeah, I'm liking that much, much better. All right. Now the last step is to go through the tablet and mobile. So let's take care of that. Let's try mobile. I think we're good to go. All right, let's go back, do that last sanity run through. Okay, that looks good. Desktop is good. Let's save this and look at this final thank you page in the browser. Good shit, good shit, good shit. I love it. So just to recap, remember we created this very basic thank you page. We snazzed it up a little bit with the background image, a video, this cool column section, and a submark. And this was all built out by scratch on my theme. Then we created this killer thank you page with this custom navigation, the logo, this beautiful header area, this absolutely positioned icon with this grid post element, and then just a simple banner footer. And then we took this disgusting, wretched template, because it does make my eyes fucking bleed, and we turned it into this gorgeous page. All right, each of these pages you can build in a matter of minutes now that you've got all these Thrive Architect skills. So go forth, create thank you pages that rock your fucking visitors' world. If you're just joining this series or catching this individual lesson and you haven't grabbed your Thrive Architect license yet, I would be forever grateful if you purchase through my affiliate link. And I've got that linked below or to the side, depending on where you're watching this lesson. All right, that's a wrap for this lesson, but I will see you in the next where we are going to cover how to build out a resource page, right? So if, like me, you have a ton of products that you are loyal as fuck to and love sharing with your people, and you've got some affiliate links, I'm gonna show you how to build out a really cool tools or resources page that's beautiful, that you can link up all your affiliate kind of programs, whether that's software or apps or courses, and you name it. We're gonna tackle that in the next lesson, so I'll see you there.